Hi, everybody.
All
Welcome to this
right.
webinar 73 about getting practical. We're going to be part 3 today of our Aspirational Compass project share out. And the subtitle today is 5 Key Landscapes for Brands to Navigate. So really excited about this topic today here with the partner Greg Stuckey and so let's do some basic introductions here, and then we'll get into this exciting content. So if I can click here, good. So I'm Dave Lundahl. I'm the CEO for Insights Now, and it's been working with Greg for quarter century.
Yeah, long time.
Nonetheless, we're a behavioral research company, and we work a lot in the area of strategy. And today we're going to talk about the development of a completely different type of strategy, new strategy that is really exciting in specific areas in food industry where we work a lot in. But anyways, Greg.
You bet. Yeah. Excited to be here, excited to be talking about aspirations and how people think in terms of what they hope to do and how they aspire to live their lives versus what actually happens in reality for them. And understanding those gaps, those things lead us to really great conclusions. Actually, some very surprising. If you came to the last 2 webinars, you'll know that we were very surprised about some of the conclusions that came out of where the biggest gaps actually were. So we want to then take those gaps and understand, well, how can we use that information to look at our brands, our products, our new innovation programs? How do we use that information to help us drive more value for people in their lives, help drive that cleaner, healthier, happier world?
Right. Yeah. So before we get into content, we do a Q&A at the end of each of these webinars. Today, we're going to have a couple of interactions. Greg's got a couple of polls that he'll throw in here later on. But the main thing is that at the end, we'll do some Q&A, and there's this little app where you can type in questions when they come to you, and then we'll address those at the end. So excited about, that sort of interaction with you all. All right, so the Aspirational Compass Project is something that we fielded back in August of this year, and we ended up with just under 2,900 primary shoppers across North America that we engaged with. And the idea for this project is several months. It was actually sponsored by a couple of our clients, and so it's to identify consumer aspirations, what their aspirations are versus what they really do, and to understand then why, and which is a lot of the trade-offs that people have to make when they are faced with day-to-day decisions. And so we believe that these sort of gaps between aspirations and reality are really fertile areas for gaining insights to understand how brands can create white space. So filling these gaps between aspirations and actual buying behaviors. And so what we constructed was a really cool new technique, a methodology that is based on psychology. And it's this psychological technique here. We looked at general and moment-specific aspirations and actual buying criteria and trade-offs. So anyway, really excited to share this. The basis for this was like 77 potential aspirations. We bucket into these 10 sort of themes, nutrition, ethical, enjoyment, convenience, clean label, safety, sustainability, restricted diet, quality, and price value. And then underlying all these, they ladder down to all of these 77 themes. Now, if you look at aspirations and actual buying motivators for these 77 sort of attributes or criteria or aspirations, however you want to describe, and look at the gaps between, what people are actually doing versus their aspirations, These are areas where opportunities arise to fulfill those gaps, for product innovation initiatives, white space, as well as marketing initiatives. So the basis of this bubbles up to what is a completely new type of strategy. And this strategy we call the ABCs of strategy, which is your aspirations, the behaviors, and the compass. The compass really can help direct, how your brand can move forward, how your product innovation, product development initiatives can be focused in the right way, and how your marketing, kind of fits into that whole as well. And so the basis for this is a framework that everybody knows, or most people know. It's called Maslow's needs hierarchy. And what this hierarchy is that people's motives, are based on these sort of needs, basic needs that are, physiological, or maybe even security. So feeling safe, is very fundamental. Once you feel safe, like say, think about food buying purchases. Once you feel that those purchases are safe, then you can move on to higher aspirations, things are important to be the more social, love, belonging, things that are more about you, your self-esteem, things that help you actualize yourself in your life, these higher aspirations. So what we did here in this research is we took these higher aspirations idea and built what we call an aspirational mountain. And this is across this mountain is looking at the very top, the most aspirational things. And some people are very aspirational in what they actually do, the actual behaviors, whereas people at the bottom are less aspirational. They're really focusing on security. They're focusing on low level sort of needs, not saying that's not important, but is extremely important. But so we found 7 different shopping personas that are positioned in different places over this aspirational mountain. Very cool. There's also a lot of gaps, which will also lead to opportunities. So that said, what we discovered were 5 different types of landscapes that are really important to take note of if you are working for a brand, thinking about product innovation opportunities or marketing strategies, okay? And so, for example, we found that some of these in this first area, on the far right, is that they're at the top of the mountain. There are landscapes where sustainability is really important, and we are amazed. It's one of the biggest takeaways, and I'll talk about this in more details, but just summary going here left to right. The second one is inflation has created some huge price value barriers because some people are stuck at the bottom of the mountain. We found a number of trust bridges, areas for brands to build trust so that people can move up the mountain place or become more aspirational in what they do. Fourth, we found that taste and novelty positioning, there's great opportunities, there's landscape, especially in the lower reaches of the mountain place. And last, convenience. There's a number of pathways across the mountain place where convenience is important. So I'm going to go through each of these. Then Greg is going to come back. And after I talk about landscapes where brands can play, Greg's going to be focusing on how to take advantage of these insights, how to play in these across these different landscapes. Okay, so sustainable aspirations. This was one of the biggest surprises that we all had when we looked at this. Number one is that sustainability, 47% of people were highly aspirational for and or are actually buying sustainable foods like plant-based foods as a lifestyle choice. 47%, almost half of all the primary shoppers. That's a huge story in itself. Sort of key personas, 15% thought that they're very aspirational for sustainability, and they're willing to pay much higher premium. They're willing to buy up, to brands that are more premium that provide that. Secondly, you have a group called casual followers. These people are a little less aspirational, yet they're still willing to pay higher premium to support their lifestyle. Okay. Now, pioneers are willing to trade away taste even and convenience for more environmentally friendly products. Casual followers are willing to trade convenience, but not taste. And then last, you have a group called path seekers. Okay. And they're only about 8% of the primary shoppers across North America, but these people are highly aspirational, but they're stuck on the lower part of the mountain. They can't afford to trade up to buy for a higher premium products that offer things that are more aspirational with regard to sustainability. Really interesting landscape. Now, the second one was these inflationary barriers. Okay. Now, we found that 89% of all shoppers claim that inflation is changing their shopping habits, buying brands on sale, buying cheaper brands, and so on. But the price increases has created a gap between those that have discretionary income, which is about 58%, versus those that don't. They can't afford to trade up. Amongst those that do have discretionary income, 39% will trade up for sustainability, and 8% will buy for clean label, and 11% will trade up for healthier claims. So that's really important because they have, these people have that discretionary income. Those that don't, if you're going to play in that landscape below this sort of gap, what you're going to have to do is compete on price. It's got to be affordable for people. 63% said price is really important. 59% thought value is really important. The price value is the key word there. But taste is also really important in this area, as well as brand trust. Okay. Now, brand trust leads us to then the next sort of area, the landscape, and that is what we call trust bridges. We found that, amongst the sample, 42% of shoppers that we had in our sample trust the U.S. food system, okay? And this is up from 39% in 2019 pre-pandemic. Now, looking at these numbers further, you find that among those that are buying online or at natural food stores, they have the highest trust. And versus other retailers, if people are shopping at other retailers primarily, it's like 41%. So very interesting. Now, if you're a plant-based buyer in the last 30 days, then we found that your trust goes up to 52%. Now, on the flip side, the ones that have the lowest trust are those that are aspirational by clean label and or aspirational by clean label, but are stuck on the lower part of the mountain. They can't afford to buy. Very, very interesting. So there's something about the labeling, and that sort of to understand that story, you need to think about who do you trust and who do you hold responsible for feeling more safe in your buying purchases. Who you trust has been declining since 2019. There's only 36% of our sample thought that federal regulators were someone they trust, or state regulators, 29%. Food companies are down to 38%, which is really amazing for brands. Now, who you hold responsible, also federal regulators and state regulators have declined down to 61 to 63% respectively since 2019. Interesting enough, who you hold responsible, food companies are upticking a bit. So it's reversing that trend. So this is news for brands, and why the the sort of trust in the system is so low amongst clean label buyers, or people who are aspirational for clean label, is because food companies, the label designs, the claims that are being made, the content on the back, which is highly regulated, is all dependent on regulators and food companies and brands to provide that content. So there's opportunities for brands to build trust. Now, the fourth area, and this is really important, especially playing in the lower parts of the mountains, what I call the fertile lowlands, and that is taste and novelty, to position products for these areas. But we found that taste in these reaches is more of an aspiration. It's less of an aspiration, more of a desire. Because you think about it, you don't buy for taste or novelty. You buy because the promise is that something is going to taste great, so it's more of a desire. And novelty, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a second, is also, less aspirational. Now, taste, 30% of our sample willing to trade taste off to fulfill sustainability aspirations. That's the people at the top of the mountain. So from a taste perspective, it's much more important at the lower reaches of the mountain place. So where 68% want good price, great taste and value, whereas 68 want good price value, 42% of it want great taste and things to be delicious. So taste is important, especially at the lower reaches, but it's got to be affordable. Now, when it comes to novelty, we found this is really interesting. So novelty means, we believe, filling aspirational gaps. And when we say novelty, it's new flavors, new products, new innovative products. We found that 63% of our sample aspire for novelty. Okay. And that is either at the upper part of the mountain where you have highest aspirations and gaps, these pioneers or committed trekkers or path seekers, whereas there's another group we call day trippers. These are in the lower part of the mountain. They actually are our older shoppers in the group, and they're seeking novelty through line extensions, and especially taste and convenience. So convenience leads us to the last sort of these convenience pathways that we have discovered as a key part of the landscape, where these pathways are, for many shoppers, one of the key areas in the hearts of shoppers, fulfilling their aspirational gaps. We found that convenience aspirations were among 64% of the sample, and that out of these, there's a 45% gap. That means people are seeking ways to be easy to prepare their products, easily found where I normally shop, and about shelf life and sustainability. Self-stability. And three personas stood out. These day trippers at the very bottom, which I mentioned here a second ago, 94% of them list convenience as an aspiration with a 55% gap. So, but they're not willing to pay more and or to trade away taste. So convenience is important, but only after it's affordable and tasty. Now, path seekers were also stuck on the lower part of the mountain. These are people that are highly aspirational for sustainability, but they're willing to trade away convenience for sustainable products. So sustainability is still important, but they're not willing to pay more for either. And last, the journey leaders. These people are further up the mountain. They're highly aspirational for sustainability, and they're willing to pay higher premiums. So 75% are willing to trade away, though, convenience for more environmental products. So convenience important, but less important than taste, less important than higher level aspirations like sustainability. So so kind of in summarizing all of these sort of insights that I've provided here, sustainability aspirations, they're changing the landscape. Probably the biggest story here, especially for clean label and plant-based foods, trust, it's going to be inflation barriers has impacted shopping motivations, especially amongst those with less discretionary income. Trust in food safety, trust in brands is really key. There's a lot of bridges, and I think it's important for brands to understand taste and novelty are less aspirational, but still really important. And convenience is a key motivator for some shoppers, but less so than higher level aspirations. So with that, Greg's going to take us.
Yeah.
How do you take this information and get practical?
Get practical.
What examples do we have here, Greg?
Absolutely. So yeah, we want to move from here into really understanding. So we've got these great numbers, great pieces of information. Now, what do we do with it? How do we take that type of information and put it against our current brands, put it against products? How do we put research against that so that we can make sure that we're moving in the right direction as well? So there's two core strategies that you can jump into, and there's more than two, but I'm going to talk about two today. One is repositioning or positioning your products to target specific persona areas. And then the second is going to be innovating on products to satisfy gaps. So the first area that we're going to talk about is positioning products. So one thing that you can do is look big picture, step back from the 7 specific personas here and just look at more aspirational top half of the mountain versus the less higher order aspirational bottom half of the mountain, like Dave said, with the higher Maslow's hierarchy. So at the base of the mountain, really a key to positioning products for success down there is positioning on price, taste, and convenience, and leveraging health-oriented aspirations in order to help differentiate you. But you've got to be able to nail those price, taste, convenience elements in the bottom half of the pyramid to be successful. On the top half of the mountain, now you're focusing much more on those higher order aspirations, focusing on sustainability, clean ingredients, novelty, health claims. All of those elements are going to help drive product success and differentiation on for those people that shop with those higher order aspirations. Now, a simple way to look at this, and I think one of the most, telling stories is if we look at plant-based products. So plant-based products, certainly we've seen the ramp up move very, very quickly, especially plant-based meats. And so if we look at the top half of the mountain versus the bottom half of the mountain, one of the things you see is that plant-based products are really being bought today by the people mostly on the top half of the mountain. Those people have 40% higher annual income than the groups on the bottom. In fact, the groups on the bottom have 1 in 4 people that are in those shopping personas that fit the bottom half. 1 in 4 have incomes less than $25,000 US a year, which is below the poverty line, right? So you've got to take into account a little bit of empathy, if you will, as you're trying to build products, as you're trying to build a sustainable future here. We've got to take into account some of these component pieces as well. So what I wanted to do today is take us through one brand and take us through one product, take a look at that product and break it apart, be super critical of it. So I picked a brand that I particularly like, because it's always good if you're going to be critical of something to pick a brand you like. And I'm picking Beyond Meat, and I'm picking their Beyond Burger. So we did some research into Beyond Meat back in 2019. So I'm going to pull some data in to support the storyline that I've got here from some 2019 data. And remember, in 2019, that was the time when Beyond and Impossible were just blowing onto the market, and they were hitting all the restaurants, all the fast food chains were starting to pick up a plant-based burgers into their market. So it was just at the start where awareness was just getting ready to happen, if you will, or just getting into that hockey stick growth area. And what we did back then is we had a couple of different studies we ran in the plant-based burger space. One was on a home use test, and another one was an online survey where we looked at shopping around plant-based foods. So let's take a look. How is Beyond Meat positioned today. If you look at how they're positioned on the mountain, we've got a couple of clips from their website that I pulled yesterday, so reasonably fresh information off their website here. And it says plant-based burgers that change the game. It says the Beyond Burger is a plant-based burger that looks, cooks, and satisfies like beef. It has all the juicy, melty deliciousness of a traditional burger, but comes with the upsides of a plant-based meal. So the question is, are they positioned for the top half of the mountain people, or are they positioned for the bottom half of the mountain people? So I'm going to launch a poll. I'm just curious about when you see this and you see how their marketing is set in terms of how their product is positioned. Do we think that's coming from the top or the bottom? Is that more focused up top or up on the bottom? So just got a few of you answering in. So far, I've got 100% top of the mountain people. That's pretty good. I don't have to show the results of that poll. So it looks like everybody, literally all of you, are saying top of the mountain. And that's fantastic. So let's take one step further. And let's break it down one more piece into the top half of the mountain. Let's look at the actual package. So they just recently rebranded. This is what the new clamshell that we see. And looking at this, and we look at the types of claims and positioning that is put on this package, what do we see here? We see a focus on 35% less saturated fat. We see a focus on 20 grams of protein. We see a focus on no gluten, right? No soy gluten. So all of the focus in terms of core message is around those core elements. And if we want to jump into say, okay, well, let's take a look at each of those groups of people and say, well, what do they have driving their shopping aspirations? The pioneers at the very top, they're sustainability first focused. And does this package, as it's positioned today, communicate well to sustainability? The journey leaders aspire to clean eating lifestyle. They're motivated by clean ingredients and clean ingredient statements. Here you've got things like no soy gluten, right? That's certainly communicating towards that element. You've got casual followers who are aspiring to buy healthy, high quality, real food. Well, certainly within this, you've got the nice, beautiful visuals so they can see the food, et cetera, so forth. But what else is communicating health and wellness here? Certainly this 35% less saturated fat might be. And then you've got the claim stakers, and these are the people who are really focused on dietary lifestyle oriented claims. So they do that. 35% less saturated fat is aimed directly at claim stakers. 20 grams of protein, claim stakers. Those are the people that really get excited about those types of claims. So what we see is on this particular pack, we've got, going through here. Yep, there we go. We've got on the pack, the real strong focus of this package is on the left-hand side, and it's specific claims targeting committed trekkers and claim stakers. That's 19% of shoppers. The question I would have then to get practical application of this information is there an opportunity to target pioneers and casual followers, which represent 47% of shoppers? So can you grow your base of users by incorporating messages around sustainability, as an example? Nothing on this label is really strongly pushing that component piece, as an example. Anything else around health and wellness claims, sustainability elements could be added to bring and draw that in, because we certainly saw it very clearly on the website was there. So what's the opportunity for them to focus their messaging on the package to attract those people at shelf, which is where those aspirations come to life? All right, so that's a really quick way of just jump in, look at your label, look at who you're targeting. Let's find out if we're targeting groups and really hitting on opportunities about what our product actually is versus what we can claim. And what we are claiming. Now, another area you can go into is actually measuring against your brand perceptions. So one of the things we often do is an implicit assessment of brands, and we take the brand, break it apart into the various elements, and they line up very well with the different landscapes. So for instance, if we take a look at sustainable aspirations, that area of sustainability is really connecting with people's personality and how the brand's personality comes to life, right? Does the brand speak to me? Does it make a statement? Fit my lifestyle? Does it fit who I am? Is it relevant to me? And you can see here, this is back from 2019 when it was just getting launched, but you see that Beyond was pretty good in the speaks to me, making a statement lifestyle, but pretty average against the rest of the brand. So it doesn't over index or really under index with fits who I am. And the is relevant is we're starting to get a little bit on the downside of under indexing there. But there's opportunities then when you break apart a brand into various aspects of its personality to fit with sustainability in this particular case, right? Whether you're really nailing that sustainable story or you're missing out on it in some way, shape, or form. So you can do research to understand what actually is driving this, what aspects of your communication make these numbers happen. Likewise, we can go into inflation. We can take a look at that big gap that we have, right? Those inflation barriers that are causing big gaps. How is this product viewed in terms of value? Now, unfortunately, this piece of research we did in 2019 was only targeting people who already buy plant-based burgers. So it appears to have fantastic value across the board because it is the survey was done to the people on the top half of the mountain. Had we included everybody, I'm quite confident that there would have been a value disconnect here. Right. Also, trust bridges. Now, trust is a new component piece, and you can break trust apart into things other than just is trustworthy. You can look at, does it care about me? Does it fit with my priorities? Do they have consistent delivery? Are they reliable? Do I get it package to package? Does it make it, is it reliable for me? And certainly you can see that there's opportunities like with Beyond where there's super amount of viewed super high scores, high over index in terms of trustworthiness, yet their consistency and reliability, and this was right when they were first launching, was maybe not as good as people were expecting. Now the question is, where does that come from? And that's where the beauty of research will take you from understanding where's my area where I can improve to actually how do I get it to improve. Now, taste and taste positioning. Desire, we can break apart that into various aspects. So is it a must-have? Does it fill a void? Is it a satisfying experience? Does it make an impression on me? Does it become something I crave? Now, craveability for plant-based, back in 2019, maybe not so much because we hadn't had enough experiences yet to create cravings. Be very curious to see if we reran this, where that information would be today. And then as we get into novelty and convenience, this is where innovation-oriented elements come, right? Is the company, is the brand viewed as being full of great ideas? In this particular case, is it changing how they do burgers, right? That's that behavioral convenience novelty connection. Does it change how I think of plant-based burgers? Is it different? Does it break the mold of what's traditional here? And in this particular case, breaking the mold's pretty low. Well, makes sense. It's burger patties. It's not a radical shift, still looks like a burger. Analog type products typically score kind of low like that anyway. So you can see how your numbers are laying out, and you can use those to ask yourself, well, are there opportunities for me to improve communication, improve positioning, improve storytelling? And if we go back to their website and we pull quotes from the website and say, okay, how else are they positioning all their brands, right? For you, for the planet, for your taste buds, build a better future. Can that information be used in store, on pack, where decisions are being made to help drive people to feel like they are getting products that fulfill their aspirational gaps? Now, in addition, we drilled down into things that we thought when we asked people to try the actual product in the home use test, where were their expectations met? And then compared to the current burger that they were using, the current plant-based burgers, how did this perform? So you see that Beyond does a really good job of tasting like real meat, looking like real meat, being trendy and popular. But even though it is quite environmentally friendly, its scores pretty average down here. And I would posit the idea that one of the reasons that it's low down there is because the expectations haven't been set. You have to go online to get those expectations versus looking at and reading about them right there on the package. So there's a grand opportunity for using a strategy to like this to reposition and target specific different personas. Now, another thing that we can do is innovate to new products to satisfy gaps. And one of the ways we do this is we look at where those big gaps are. So if I look at the specific moment of shopping for ground meats, and this can be either plant or animal-based meats for an easy to prepare meal, if I look at the personas on the bottom part of the mountain, I'm just picking a couple of them here. First is path seekers, and I look at it and say, well, where are the biggest gaps for them? What are their biggest aspirations and what are their biggest gaps? And we see from this particular group that price, of course, is their number one. They're on the bottom half. So if I can overcome price in my innovation process, what would I have to nail to really feel like I've helped them differentiate or help build products that will shake up essentially what they're doing and what they're buying today? Well, it would be free from, animal welfare, and great tasting. If I can put those three in combination with a price point that is similar to other products on the market, especially other, in this case, ground, and you're competing plant and ground in this particular case. So if I can put price points in there that work, and I can hit taste, free from, and animal welfare, I'll start pulling in these path seekers. Now, another group we can look at is the day trippers. Day trippers are the type of people who are now what we see is a lot more convenience oriented. Price value is even more important to this particular group, but notice how big fresh, great tasting, right? Those are the next big ones. And then at the bottom, we see three elements all related around convenience, right? Available where I shop, it's actually convenient, and it's easy to prepare. So this group, if you're going to really attract the day trippers and target the day trippers with brand new product innovations, you would say, okay, we've got to be able to set a low price point. So we've got to be able to set our guardrail on price at a lower point. And then we have to figure out how to deliver fresh, great taste that is highly convenient. What are opportunities to do that within this particular space? And you can use that as your starting point for innovation sessions to come up with new product ideas, new potentially processing ideas, new ways to build products in this particular space that would then really attract this particular group of people. All right, so we've shown a couple of different strategies, right? Positioning your products to target personas, as well as innovating products to satisfy those gaps. A couple of really simple ways to use this information in these landscapes to help bring a new growth into your products and new growth into your brands.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Greg. You know, so kind of in summarizing all of this content, if you have registered for this webinar and say you are a brand manager or you are in a strategy position with innovation or marketing strategy for your company, or even if you are working in ESG initiatives to bring those, you know, I would be taking note that sustainable aspirations are changing the landscape of consumer demand. I mean, these are striking, 47%, you know, and especially if you're a clean label or plant-based foods brand, you know, if you're going to play in those upper reaches, you know, as Greg was showing of the mountain, you know, there's a lot of white space for you. There's a lot of white space to position things as sustainable, you know, and perhaps being plant-based as an example is just enough just to be in that category. Maybe the category itself carries part of that, but our research suggests there are other opportunities as well. Now, going over to the second area of inflation, if I can get this to inflation barriers have impacted shopping motivations, no doubt about it, you know, and has created that sort of income sort of gap, you know. If you don't have discretionary income, if those are the people that you are seeking to reach, you've got to be affordable. Shoppers are not going to trade up, so you need to be able to build product opportunities that meet these consumers on the lower part of the mountain where they are living. So that means focusing on taste, focusing on novelty that fits their definition of like a line extension path of flavor, perhaps novelties. Some is convenience is another way, so it's really important that you know how and take these insights, play in the right way at the bottom for those. Now, trust bridges, I can't, say, I think everyone who works on sort of for a brand realizes brand trust is important. And so our results are a show that is very striking. Thanks, Greg. That, trust bridges are there. People need to feel safe, but they also need to trust that what the brand claims they're going to do, they will deliver it for them. So the metrics that Greg was showing, I think, are some ways to really understand, what trust is about and where you can index, can index in the right way to improve that. Something you could even track over time. Now, taste and novelty are the next area, and we know that, especially if you're going to play in the lower reaches, there is still a lot of fertile ground. This idea that taste is more of a desire than an aspiration. I think that's an important thing to take away. Taste creates experiences that will drive the repeat business but an initial buy for something that's new and novel, is going to be fulfilling the gaps that are really more important. And people expect things to taste. If they don't, then they're not going to buy it again. And last, convenience. Convenience is, for some consumers, really key motivator, as filling an aspirational gap for them. And it could be, easy to prep, easy to find and to buy in the stores where I go to, or online, or however you shop. And third, there's something about things being shelf stable, have shelf life, that these shoppers that are seeking convenience are really aspirational to find. So anyways, really important things that we need to look at. Last point is that for all of us, if we are, as insights professionals, if you're a sensory professional, if you're a marketing consumer insights professional, if you're a brand strategist, if you're a strategy and innovation leader, or you're working in ESG, any of these types of roles, we have an opportunity here to tilt innovation for a sustainable future. We live in a time where it's not just the bottom line for companies, but there is a double bottom line. That is dealing with the ESG bottom line for companies. This tilting can help look at ways to address both bottom lines, or even to, for instance, if you can build a bridge for brands that to consumers that are on the lower end of the mountain because they're stuck there per price, because they're that gap. If you can build a bridge over that gap so that they can buy your brands that are more sustainable, filling their sort of aspirations, you can increase your reach, increasing both the bottom line financially and the ESG bottom line. So I think it's a great opportunity. So this idea of deepening these insights, looking at these gaps, the aspirational mountain, I think, is a great way to look at it. And it sets a foundation, for discovering white space opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super exciting that all the work that we've got going on here, that if you're in that space, you can lean in hard. We say tilt, but honestly, you can lean in pretty hard to it. And that, I think, was what was surprising to us going into this research. is just how much people are really wanting it and how much they feel they're not getting sustainability today. Yeah. All right, so questions. First question actually up, and if you have questions, there's a question and answer button at the bottom, just go for it. Ask questions away here. Dave, first one, kind of pointing back towards you and what you were talking about in terms of sustainability. You said 47%. So the question here is sustainability, why do we think there's such a gap with sustainability? Is all 47% working well together to get there? I have to read the question a little better. Is the 47% getting the sustainability they want, or is there a really big gap?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it is a real gap, because the gap in how we measure the gap and define the gap is looking at the percentage of people that list this as an aspiration, okay? They aspire to, versus what they are actually doing today. So that gap is big, and it means that people are not finding the products in the stores, or there's other barriers, and it could be, price value is an obvious barrier, but it could be other barriers that are important to people in certain segments. So so it may be that positioning a product sustainable, you need to position products multiple ways to meet the totality of, and it could be that for some groups, some of these personas that we looked at today, they're not going to buy a product that's sustainable. They'll buy a product that's affordable and tastes great or is convenient. And you could create products and not position them that way and be still more sustainable in how you manufacture those products and things like that, that can achieve, great ESG bottom line goals and so financial goals. So anyways, but it is a real gap in terms of the percentage of people between what they are actually aspiring to and what they're actually buying.
Right. Let's see. One other quick one. Survey size that for the personas, that was almost 3,000 people, 2,900 people. Okay, and that's really all the questions that I see so far. I don't see any new ones, so let's move on as we get in. We've got really nice discussion session set up for this next month. Next month, we're actually going to be doing a look at the best insights of 2022. And we're going to be going back and talking about the types of consumer insights that we saw happening through the course of the year that we think have been the most influential, that companies are applying today to address their innovation and brand challenges. So what are those insights that I hope you're paying attention to and taking advantage of? Right. And then so that'll be next month. And then also I want to just make sure, as we wrap up this ESG series, or sorry, this series on aspirations, if you have questions, if you want to understand how do I apply this type of information, how can I learn more a little bit about aspirations for my brands, maybe we can walk through maybe my brand and what do we see, get expert opinion, you name it. Give me a call. I got a link there to my calendar. You can just set up a meeting real quickly. And if you want to talk ESG, Dave and I would love to talk with anybody who's interested in that particular topic, because it's a passion of ours personally as well.
Yep.
All right. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
I really appreciate your attention for everybody that's watching this and those that have registered. Share this. We want to increase the number of people that can be part of this conversation, because I think it's really important.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Bye.